It's as if a fantasy has materialized. A $300 million legacy and our very own business. As my sister-in-law, Mary, reveled in my father's inheritance, the employees exchanged hushed remarks. They were elated, and Mary declared triumphantly, "Please keep quiet. This is the moment when my husband will inherit the company and $3 million. Upon hearing this, one of the employees started laughing uncontrollably. Seated next to his bewildered wife, my elder brother was perusing the will from the lawyer. As he read, my brother's face turned pale. "Look at this," my brother exclaimed, showing her the will, and she let out a scream. "I go by the name Lucy, and I'm 29 years old, working for my father's business. When he was young, my father had the foresight to establish a business from scratch. It has since developed into a moderately sized enterprise with numerous employees. Naturally, soon after launching the business, he accumulated debt, and even as a young child, I could envision how challenging it must have been for my father. Even as the company expanded, I wanted to assist my mother, who primarily handled clerical back-office duties. My parents encouraged me to attend college and pursue a career of my choice. But my aspiration was to work for the company that my father had labored so diligently to construct. That was the foremost thought that crossed my mind when I contemplated my career path after graduating from high school. Bob, a seasoned employee, was the initial person to guide me when I joined my father's firm. He patiently instructed me the basics of commerce without regarding me through the perspective of being the president's daughter. I was able to acquire more knowledge about the firm thanks to Bob. Contrastingly, my sibling Tom, who's just 2 years older, went to university to study administration. From a young age, he was proud to inform his college buddies that his father was managing a business and that he would eventually take charge of the enterprise. Tom's friends would inquire, "What are your intentions after you finish college, Tom? Don't you have to seek employment?" "I don't need to seek employment because I'll be working for my father's firm. I'll eventually be the firm's president, so I'll take my time acquiring management experience until then. So you're going to be the upcoming president of the firm. Then your life will be safeguarded and stable." "I'm envious of you," one of Tom's friends remarked. "Tom, you have a younger sister as well. Isn't there going to be a dispute over who's the heir?" "Younger sister? I do, but she's a high school graduate and a modest individual." "That's something you say frequently. She seems to be doing some behind-the-scenes work for the firm. If I become president, I'll keep her on as long as she listens to me." My sibling was squandering money and fooling around under the pretense of gaining experience as a business manager. He knew that if he behaved well, his friends would gather around him. There is no shortage of women who wanted to date him because of his firm position as the company's upcoming president. My sibling selected the most extravagant and appealing lady to wed. Mary was her name. After a grand wedding, my sibling and Mary traveled abroad for their honeymoon, constructed a grand house, and commenced their married life together. All of this was done by him to attain the position of company president. Mary seemed satisfied with her life with Tom, who fulfilled her every desire and allowed her to indulge in all of life's comforts. "Lucy, you don't resemble the CEO's daughter, do you?" she inquired. "You don't seem like the daughter of the company's president." Mary would frequently glance at me and chuckle whenever we crossed paths at family gatherings. "I don't enjoy living a luxurious lifestyle," I remarked. She regarded me as if I were a letdown. "I pity you because you were born as the daughter of a company's president, but you have no concept of how to spend money." "What? You reside at home with your parents and you have plenty of money, so you don't need to work so diligently. Furthermore, with your status as the president's daughter, shouldn't the men be pursuing you?" My sibling assented. "I'm certain that's accurate. Lucy has always been very humble, so no one would guess that her father is the president. And evidently, she treats the other employees in a regular manner. I come as a surprise. There are still numerous aspects I don't comprehend about my job. Many of my colleagues are more adept at their jobs than I am, so I can't behave like an important person." I contradicted, but my sibling exclaimed, "That's the reason you're ineffective. A leader should be able to stand tall so that he's not mocked by his subordinates, like his staff. Allow the other staff members to handle the simple, repetitive tasks." I suppose my father and I are the only supervisors in this residence. You should not look down on your subordinates, no matter how influential you are. My father too. My brother cut me off when I tried to respond, looking annoyed and frustrated with me. He said, "A rational woman is not well liked by men." After my brother spoke up, Mary followed, "If you keep saying things like that, I'm sure you'll never get married. You should try to make yourself more appealing. Don't you agree, Tom?" "Yeah, well, when I become president, I might dismiss a modest employee like you," Tom said. My brother and Mary only said what they needed to say, and they quickly left. My mother, who'd remained silent during this interaction, consoled me after they had gone. She said, "You're doing an excellent job with the company, which greatly helps me and your father. Don't be concerned about what Tom says." My father nodded, a stern expression on his face. My parents had previously expressed their displeasure with my brother's ideas to his face. But after that, my brother and Mary became visibly upset and stopped visiting her house for over a month. I recalled the depressing atmosphere at the time, so I suggested to my parents, Tom and Mary are free to say whatever they want. After that, Tom and Mary continued to live there. They lived as they desired, dining extravagantly at high-class restaurants and vacationing at renowned resorts. The goal was to create the impression that Tom would eventually become the president of my father's company. During that time, my father was diligently working to expand his business, but one evening at home, he expressed discomfort in his chest. I inquired, "Father, are you okay? Try to relax. I will call for an ambulance." "Lucy, listen." While we waited for the ambulance, my father indicated a drawer and informed me that he had a letter for me. I promptly retrieved the letter from the drawer. "I want you to read this if anything happens to me. Everything else will be handled by the lawyers," he said breathlessly before losing consciousness just before the ambulance arrived. Despite being rushed to the emergency room, he passed away without regaining consciousness. My brother and Mary, who were away on a trip, were unable to be present for my father's passing. They returned from their trip 2 days later. At the end of my father's funeral, Tom remarked, "We're just relieved we made it in time. I never thought my father would pass away while we were on vacation." I was completely surprised. My brother and Mary arrived at the funeral without a worry in the world, making no reference to the fact that my mother and I had been left to manage the arrangements. I questioned my brother about it privately so that the onlookers would not overhear. "Couldn't you have come home earlier?" "What?" "I couldn't because I had already reserved our return flight." My sibling stated without offering an apology and then expressed gratitude to the staff, saying, "Thank you all for your assistance, and please, going forward, allow me to take my father's position in a dignified manner." Mary observed the quieted employees and remarked with admiration, "That's exactly what Tom would do." Everyone is speechless because they're so impressed, correct? It's only natural, considering my dignity. Proudly, my sibling inquired, "Lucy, isn't the ceremony about to commence? Please hurry and lead the way." I felt annoyed by my sibling's tardiness and his arrogance, but I guided him, along with the staff, to the banquet table. My sibling continued to behave arrogantly as we dined. "Isn't the quality of this food questionable, Lucy? This will diminish our father's reputation as president," he remarked. Mother and I had already discussed it and reached an agreement on the food. Furthermore, I don't want you dictating to me. This is why people have no idea what it means to be president. He not only gave instructions to me, but also to the other employees serving others. "You're useless," he said. I hurried to intervene after hearing him command Bob, a long-serving employee, to do his bidding. "Tom, you're so audacious. Don't order Bob around. They're disrespectful people. Why should I be subservient to a mere employee? These individuals should have more respect for me, the president." Mary also joined in and confronted me. "That's right. Stop speaking condescendingly to Tom, the president of the company, Lucy. If you persist in defying him, he will dismiss you. He possesses the authority." A man arrived just as my brother and his spouse were speaking loudly. He said, "Please pardon my interruption. Your father instructed me to oversee his estate. He was the attorney my father had hired while he was alive." Then I recalled my father had informed me shortly before his passing that he had already engaged a lawyer. It appeared my father had been contemplating his own demise and had conversed with a lawyer several years before he fell ill. My brother and Mary's eyes sparkled when the lawyer mentioned inheritance. They warmly received the lawyer into their room. Tom remarked, "Thank you for coming. The sooner we finish this task, the better. Please come in." But as he conversed with the lawyer, Tom began to weep. Wasn't my father's inheritance valued at $300 million? When Mary heard this, she exclaimed with joy, $300 million? That amount of money in a company that is ours is a wish come true. When the employees heard this, they started to murmur. Mary proudly announced to the grieving employees, "Silence. This is the moment when the company and its $300 million inheritance transfer to Tom." Upon hearing this, one of the employees started laughing uncontrollably. My brother had received the will and was reading it beside Mary, who was curious about what the employees found amusing. My brother's face turned pale as she watched. "Mary, according to the will, the eldest daughter, Lucy, will inherit the entire company." Upon reading the will, he reacted strongly, claiming it was impossible and incorrect. The lawyer, in a troubled manner, stated that the will was legally binding. His brother's agitation increased as he expressed disbelief and questioned how Lucy could become president instead of him. He suggested that their father's age and mental state may have influenced the will. He claimed that a will made by an elderly person with declining mental faculties is invalid. Upon hearing these remarks, he became upset and refused to let anyone, including family members, disparage their late father. He defended his father's integrity and put an end to the discussion. He found the idea of his brother Tom becoming president even more unacceptable. His words angered his brother, who questioned whether he was being deemed unfit for the position. He responded promptly, asserting that his brother's lack of contribution to the company made him unsuitable for the role. His brother argued that they had built a grand house suitable for a president and had made efforts to present a presidential image. He questioned whether building an extravagant mansion and dining at fancy restaurants was beneficial for the business, especially considering that their father had covered most of the expenses for the new house and events. His brother then revealed that their father had left him a letter just before his passing, detailing certain matters. The funds he had expended on you, and indicated it would be presented to you as a present during his lifetime. Consequently, your portion of the inheritance is almost negligible. Mary became anxious upon hearing this. Hold on. Is this bequest valued at $300 million? Have we already utilized that much? It's unjust that we receive so little from it. The staff member who had just burst into laughter promptly approached Mary and informed her that $300 million originates from the corporation, not from personal assets. I believe all the staff members here are cognizant of this. Money from the corporation is not something that can be inherited. I apprised Mary, indeed, the funds from the corporation do not constitute an inheritance for the family, so I'm quite certain my brother's portion is insignificant. That crushes my spirit. Oh no, I was utterly surprised. The inheritance is $300 million? My brother rose as if he'd had an epiphany and shouted at the employees, "You want your company president to be an ordinary woman like Lucy? You must believe I'm more qualified to be president. I possess the same amount of charm as my father." Not one of his colleagues concurred with him. Bob then took the lead and commenced conversing with my brother. "Your forerunner, your father, was a charming man who established the company during his lifetime. However, you and he are not the same individual. What you have is conceit, not charisma." My brother became furious when the employee calmly contradicted him. "Tom, you may be an employee of our company, but we, the staff, seldom catch sight of you at the workplace. That's due to my lack of time to carry out any tasks for the company. I was extremely occupied socializing with others. I couldn't find time to perform work that anyone could do. You consider going on trips and having fun at night as networking? Is that the entire explanation?" Bob elaborated on that point. Lucy diligently worked every day to gain more knowledge about the company while fulfilling her unobtrusive behind-the-scenes responsibilities. Bob continued, "I detect the same earnestness in her as in your father. Lucy is the suitable individual for the position. according to all of us at the company. The other staff members nodded enthusiastically in response to his statements. I was touched and replied, "Thank you very much." To be frank, I'm taken aback by the suddenness of the news. But having observed my father's enthusiasm for the company firsthand, I value it just as much as you do. I anticipate your continued support. The staff warmly applauded as I bowed deeply. Emboldened by the applause, I stated firmly, "All of you here are valuable friends who have contributed to our business. Anyone who disregards them is unsuitable to be an employee, let alone the company's president. You can be dismissed by the president." My brother became agitated upon hearing this. "What in the world are you talking about? I'm your brother. You even mentioned that if you became president, you would terminate my employment, brother. I can't afford to pay a salary to an incompetent employee simply because he's family. This is completely absurd. Someone, please voice your thoughts." With a sorrowful expression on his face, he pleaded for help from those nearby. However, the employees gave him only icy glances. Realizing that no one was on his side, my sibling and Mary departed the area. Subsequently, Tom lost his employment and subsisted on the modest inheritance he had received, but the funds quickly depleted. "Can you lend me money, Lucy?" I was repulsed by my brother, who even after being terminated, did not attempt to secure a new job and continued to depend on his family for assistance. I plainly instructed my mother not to provide any financial support to my brother. His companions, who had previously been so encouraging, deserted him upon learning that he had been removed from his position as president by his sister. When Mary married my brother, she had intended to be the spouse of the company president, and none of her friends appeared to sympathize with her. When their living expenses became unsustainable, my brother and his wife resolved to sell their mansion. The proceeds from selling their house might have allowed my brother and his wife to unwind and resume their previous lifestyle. However, lacking any income, my brother and his wife's savings swiftly diminished. When they had nothing left to sell, they could no longer cover their living expenses. Upon finally deciding to give up and seek employment, no one would hire them because they had never been employed before. Tom eventually managed to secure a part-time position at a convenience store. Now he is employed at a convenience store, a shop, a job he is not familiar with, and has been informed that his work is not satisfactory by other part-time workers who are much younger than he is. Mary, as well, can no longer be a full-time homemaker like she used to be. She has joined the part-time homemakers she used to ridicule, and she now works as a cashier at a grocery store from morning to night for a low monthly wage. I, on the contrary, am applying what I've learned from my behind-the-scenes work to assist the company. Bob and the other staff have been collaborating with me, and the company has been steadily expanding. My brother's situation may have actually strengthened employee solidarity. I pledge to continue working with my mother to expand the business in order to bring more happiness to my father in paradise.